Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. Police have arrested at least 2,000 protesters on college campuses over the last 2 weeks. The unrest shows no sign of slowing down.
And President Biden condemning violence and hate at pro-Gaza protests that are disrupting campuses across the U.S. New York's mayor says outside agitators are involved. We ask a former detective how the protests should be handled.
Former President Trump back in court in the so-called hush money trial. His lawyers turning the heat up on Stormy Daniels' former attorney.
Congress is hoping to address the nation's shortage of air traffic controllers and increase safety. A new bill would also force changes in the airline industry that could positively affect airline passengers.
The IRS is clamping down on tax cheating with increased audits of the very wealthy. And a glitch in Apple's iPhone alarm could make you late for work. The host of Business Matters has those stories.
Opening night at the 24th annual Beverly Hills Film Festival, showcasing over 250 films from around the world. We take a look at some entries and some people in attendance.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Hi, welcome to NTD.
Welcome and happy Friday. Today is May 3rd. Also, we've seen President Biden has broken his silence on those anti-Israel protests, but he has expressed his support for peaceful protesting.
Yeah, and a little side-by-side here, former President Trump has been condemning the violence at them for a while now.
That's right, and we're topping the news today with that story. Police are continuing to crack down on pro-Gaza protests on campuses across the U.S.
The unrest shows no signs of slowing down. Police in Los Angeles arrested over 200 people last night for refusing to leave UCLA.
Authorities in Oregon arrested at least 30 people at Portland State University yesterday, clearing a library and park. Portland police said some people broke back into the building after officers left.
For many universities, it's graduation weekend. Some schools holding ceremonies today are raising security concerns after weeks of protests and mass arrests.
The University of Florida ramped up security at its graduation tonight. Some pro-Gaza students and faculty are calling for Indiana University's president to resign after riot police broke up protests last weekend. The school's ceremonies are today and tomorrow.
Ohio State's ceremony is still on for Sunday. That's after both disorderly and peaceful protests on campus this week. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the campus chaos.
There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos.
President Biden on Thursday gave his first lengthy comments on campus chaos spreading across the U.S.
I understand people have strong feelings and deep convictions. In America, we respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law.
Police say they've arrested at least 2,000 people at pro-Gaza protests and encampments on U.S. campuses over the last 2 weeks. The president says it's not a time for politics, but a moment for clarity.
Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not peaceful protest. It's against the law.
Former President Trump on Truth Social said a radical left revolution is taking place. He praised New York and California law enforcement outside court Thursday.
They did a job at Columbia, and likewise in Los Angeles, they did a really good job at UCLA. It was very much embedded. And just so you understand, this is the radical left. This is a movement from the left, not from the right. The right is not your problem.
Trump says the Justice Department should be looking at what's happening in their own offices, warning it's going to get worse.
Because you're loaded up with radical left people that want this country to fail, and we're not going to let this country fail. Thank you very much.
The NYPD says officers arrested over 280 people at Columbia University and the City College of New York on Tuesday combined. Officials say close to half were not affiliated with either school. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says outside agitators were training and co-opting protests, calling some professionals and well-trained.
There is a movement to radicalize young people, and I'm not going to wait until it's done and all of a sudden acknowledge the existence of it. This is a global problem that young people are being influenced by those who are professionals at radicalizing our children, and I'm not going to allow that to happen as the mayor of the city of New York.
A spokesperson for the Manhattan DA's office said 46 people arrested at Columbia's Hamilton Hall have only been charged with one count of trespassing so far. Protesters that barricaded inside could be charged with third-degree burglary. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And joining me now for more on the protests across university campuses is Peter Forcelli. He's a former NYPD detective and a retired ATF Deputy Assistant Director. Good morning, Peter. It's really good to see you again. So last night, police also moved in to disperse the protesters at UCLA, and that's after counter-protesters came in and attacked the camp. It's not clear if they're actually from that school. So are we finding out more about what exactly happened there?
Well, my understanding is you had Jewish residents from the Los Angeles area that had enough, and they came back and started to push back against some of the pro-Palestinian protesters who were already there. Look, the concern is how far out of control is this going to spin? And I think the chickens have come home to roost to some degree for the far left, who, if you remember, during the riots of 2020, were advocating that people not only should be out there, but they should stay out there. You have many universities that were giving credits to people for protesting. Well, now it's affecting their campuses and it's affecting their side of the aisle. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they deal with this. And I truly think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Right. And let's talk about that. At the same time, of course, investigations are ongoing. They were wearing black. They had masks on. So it's difficult to tell who they were. In New York also, for instance, more than half the people arrested were not affiliated with the schools. So tell me more about how common it is for outside agitators to stir things up.
Well, it's very common, in fact. And what I've seen is you see, like, if you look at some of the protests around the country, they're carrying some of the same equipment. Many of the tents in these encampments look like they're purchased from the same vendor. So it appears that they're well funded. And my understanding is a lot of the money's coming from a pro-Palestinian student group that's based in Falls Church, Virginia. The funding is coming from the Open Societies Foundation, which is a George Soros foundation. Look, but I think the bigger problem is you're seeing it happen in these cities like Los Angeles and in Manhattan, for example, where you have very left-leaning prosecutors. Alvin Bragg it's no secret that he's left of center, and is admittedly so. And then you have George Soros, who is, I guess, the poster child for woke prosecutors. For example, even in your segment, a lot of these students are being charged with trespass. Well, that's the equivalent of a human parking ticket in New York City. I mean, it's not even an arrest, it's a summons. So, I mean, there's really no deterrence for these folks to continue. And look, these paid agitators are here to stir up things, I think, before the 2024 election. So how out of control it gets is yet to be seen. But what's more disturbing is in recent testimony by Christopher Wray, the FBI director, he stated openly that they're not monitoring these protests. To me, that's disturbing, and I am absolutely against the government lying to the citizenry, but I surely hope he was lying to us, because I would hope that the FBI is monitoring what happens here.
Yes, hopefully. And let's talk about this more about the outside agitators, because I'm not sure if this is widely known. What is their goal actually, and why are they inciting this kind of violence and vandalism?
Well, I mean, Antifa would be one example. These folks they basically want civil unrest. You know, they're anarchists, and they have a playbook. And, you know, I know there are some who say that Antifa is an ideology, it's not a group. Well, that doesn't jive with the fact that when they protest, that pallets of bricks are shipped to locations, that water bottles are frozen and shipped to locations. They are a group that is well-funded. They are a group that is coordinated. And I believe probably if we trace that money, we would find a lot of it comes from these same societies. And the reality is, look, these are conspiracies. You know, they're conspiring to go to locations. They're extorting universities. I mean, there are underlying crimes here that if the government wanted to pursue RICO charges against these folks, they could. They just don't seem to have the appetite to do it because they're afraid that they would be accused of violating free speech. But the reality is free speech stops when the violence and the destruction begins. That's criminality, not free speech.
And just in a couple of seconds, I'm wondering, there's people that incite these. When people see these violent outbreaks on TV and those large protests, could there be a ripple effect across cities? Are there indicators that police is looking out for example, to anticipate what might be coming to their city?
Sure, absolutely. But the police are kind of handcuffed in this, if you think about it. Like when you have some of these prosecutors who would very aggressively prosecute police officers, enforcing what much of the public perceives as free speech, the cops are in a very, very tricky situation here. And look, like I said earlier, this isn't free speech when they start assaulting students, threatening students because of their religious beliefs or their ethnicity or anything along those lines. These are crimes. But because of public perception, the police are a little bit sheepish about acting.
Got it. Thank you so much, Peter Forcelli. Some really interesting insights this morning. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Former President Trump was back in court yesterday after a quick campaign outing earlier this week. An ex-lawyer for Stormy Daniels said the payment Trump made was not hush money. Jeremy Sandberg has the latest on Trump's New York trial.
Former President Trump's lawyers Thursday laid into witness Keith Davidson. Davidson testified as then lawyer for Stormy Daniels. He arranged the $130,000 payment with ex-Trump lawyer Michael Cohen. The defense questioned Davidson's credibility, pointing to other deals he had cut with celebrities over the years, including Hulk Hogan, Charlie Sheen, and Lindsay Lohan. Trump's attorney played secretly taped recordings of conversations between Davidson and Cohen. The two lawyers could be heard talking about the leverage of Daniels' claims. Trump's attorney said Davidson was well versed in extracting payments from celebrities to keep stories out of the press. He argued this fell just short of extortion, and that the deal with Trump followed a similar pattern. Davidson denied ever committing extortion. Prosecutors questioned Davidson about Stormy Daniels' earlier denial of her relationship with Trump. Davidson argued the denial was not technically a lie because it referred to a romantic relationship as opposed to a one-off encounter. He also refused to label the payment Trump made to Daniels as hush money. He confirmed Daniels signed a non-disclosure agreement with Trump, but said the money was, quote, consideration in a civil agreement. Justice Juan Merchan earlier in the day signaled he might fine Trump over allegations he again violated his gag order. Trump's lawyers argued Trump did not violate the order when he said the Manhattan jury was picked from a heavily Democratic area, but Merchan disagreed. Prosecutors are asking for Trump to be fined $4,000. So far, Trump has been adamant he will take the stand in his own trial, but on Thursday he had this to say.
I'm not allowed to testify because this judge, who's totally conflicted, has me under an unconstitutional gag order. Nobody's ever had that before.
The gag order doesn't actually bar Trump from testifying, but prevents him from making public statements about jurors, witnesses, court staff, most of the counsel, and the judge and the DA's family members.
We love Trump!
Trump was campaigning in Michigan a day earlier, where he spoke about his ongoing trial.
Because I'm in New York all the time with the Biden trial. A fake trial. That all of the legal scholars say is a disgrace. It's a fake trial. They do it to try and take your powers away, try and take your candidate away that's killing them in the polls.
Trump faces 3 other criminal prosecutions, though it's not clear if any of them will go to trial before the presidential election. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Former President Trump is hosting a high-profile event in Florida this weekend with potential running mates on the guest list.
According to a copy of the event program seen by Reuters, big names could include Governors Doug Burgum and Kristi Noem, Senators Tim Scott and Marco Rubio.
Trump will convene a 2-day retreat on Friday and Saturday in Palm Beach. It's expected to attract more than 400 donors and high-profile politicians.
Burgum and Scott competed against Trump for the 2024 Republican nomination before dropping out. House Speaker Mike Johnson will also address the guests.
Trump will be looking keenly to this event as several legal battles continue to drain his campaign coffers. Trump's Save America committee has paid out more than $59 million in legal fees since the start of 2023.
Trump is in no hurry to pick a running mate, according to advisors. He will not be formally nominated until the Republican convention in July. President Biden campaigned in North Carolina yesterday. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the highlights of his trip, which included a visit with the family of the officers who were killed Monday while attempting to serve a warrant.
About taxes in his town, and he got
Democrats lost North Carolina to former President Trump in the past 2 elections, but Biden thinks the issue of abortion could draw more moderates to his side this time around. Opinion polls, however, show a tough path for Biden in the November election. An Emerson College poll released on Tuesday showed former President Trump 5 percentage points ahead of Biden in the state. During a visit to Wilmington, Biden highlighted his administration's funding to rid the nation of lead pipes. The bipartisan infrastructure bill gives the EPA $3 billion a year for the effort through 2026. The EPA says the funding will impact 1.7 million lead pipes.
Protecting people from lead pipe contamination is just one of our nation's most ambitious water agendas ever. We're upgrading old water mains, treatment plants. Some of them are as old as 100 years old here in America.
The president also traveled to Charlotte, meeting with some of the families of the 8 police officers who were shot in the line of duty on Monday, 4 of them fatally.
We pray for their loved ones and those left behind. I met their children, their husbands, their wives, and their mothers and fathers. We pray for the recovery of the brave wounded as well.
Charlotte authorities say the suspect who fired at the officers was killed when police returned fire. The Fraternal Order of Police say as of Tuesday, 136 officers have been shot in the line of duty this year. 20 of those officers died. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Alabama's Republican governor signed a bill yesterday that ensures President Biden will be on the state's ballot in November.
Governor Kay Ivey gave her stamp of approval after state lawmakers voted unanimously to pass the bill.
The Democratic sponsor of the bill celebrated what she called a great day in Alabama. The bill had full bipartisan support.
A Biden campaign spokesperson said states across the country have acted to make sure presidential nominees from both parties will be on the ballot.
The DNC convention is set for after the deadline for state ballots in Alabama and Ohio, prompting fears that Biden's name would not be on the ballot.
The new measure extended the deadline in Alabama, so this wouldn't be the case. In 2020, Alabama faced a similar issue with former President Trump. Then, too, lawmakers voted to extend the ballot deadline. And coming up, President Biden breaking his silence, condemning the violence at pro-Palestine protests on college campuses. How will this affect his campaign? And is Biden merely observing, or is he taking control? A lawyer's perspective.
The Biden administration announcing new sanctions on suppliers of military equipment to Russia. And China is once again in the spotlight. That and more when we return.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas-3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3. Greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
Good to have you back. Heavy rains washed over parts of Texas yesterday, causing severe flooding.
Mandatory evacuations were ordered in some areas, and Texas Governor Abbott expands a disaster declaration.
The American Red Cross opened up shelters on Thursday night, and drivers were told to be careful. The flooding at this fire training facility in Livingston has buildings surrounded and some cars almost completely submerged. The highway remained busy as vehicles rolled through the vast waterlogged terrain.
Flooding in downtown Livingston near Houston, widespread devastation in the city can be seen. Car after car submerged in the high waters. Houses and buildings look like small islands in the sea of brown floodwater. And flooding wasn't all Texans had to grapple with. The power of nature on full display here as a frightening looking twister spins above a field in the distance. The Houston mayor's office said no injuries or death were immediately reported from the flooding. At least 9 people were rescued from rising water.
Unrest on college campuses across the U.S. continues, with over 2,000 arrests in the last 2 weeks.
Authorities arrested at least 30 people at Portland State University yesterday, clearing a library and a park. Police arrested more than 200 pro-Gaza protesters at UCLA last night.
President Biden, addressing the protests, said dissent is essential to democracy, but warned about disorder and denying people's rights. He says students must be allowed to finish the semester and their college education.
The president also said there is no place on any campus or in America for anti-Semitism or Islamophobia. Biden condemned threats of violence and said there's no place for racism in America. It's all wrong. To talk about this, we bring in Gerard Felitti, a civil and human rights attorney who is also a senior counsel at the Lawfare Project. Good morning to you, Gerard. Thanks for being here. Former President Trump has said that President Biden was nowhere to be found amid the unrest. What do you make of the timing of Biden's breaking his silence now, condemning the violence at anti-Israel protests, when some media have categorized this as too little too late?
I think a lot of people characterize this as too little too late. Biden has been fairly silent for 6 months and a half on what's been going on American campuses. We needed an unequivocal statement that the anti-Semitism we've been seeing since October 7th is unacceptable and needed to be stopped. But we did not see that. We saw an absence of leadership both at college campuses and at the top of the Biden administration. It's good that he has finally come out with a strong statement, but on the other hand, he is also linking this to Islamophobia, which quite simply is not what's going on. What's going on is anti-Semitism that has led to anarchy.
And we will keep in mind here that White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has denied the notion that President Biden is responding to pressure from Trump in calling out this violence. Senior Biden aides are saying that the protests will not cost Biden the election, asserting there is a small number involved in these protests compared to the roughly 40 million Gen Z eligible voters. Will the fact that President Biden has spoken out about these protests affect his campaign?
I don't think it will. It makes him no friends among people who are disappointed by his inaction. And as for people who would be inclined to vote Democratic anyway, they will still do so no matter what Biden does on college campuses. So the effect on the campaign will be minimal. He will have the same votes. The only issue is right now, this is a public policy issue, a public safety issue, like many others that have not been adequately addressed by this administration.
Okay, let's move on here. Can Biden afford a protracted series of protests stretching into the summer and up until the final days, until the election?
He can't. Public safety has been an issue now for many months. It's been a central key issue in this election, linked to the border crisis, linked to lawlessness in American cities, linked to the drugs crisis, and now we're seeing anarchy on college campuses. This needs resolution. If America sees lawlessness on hundreds of college campuses into the summer, into the fall, and we will see more of this in the fall unless there's decisive action by the Biden administration, by college officials, all of this disorder will cause Biden significant pain at the polls because Americans don't want this. Americans want their kids to enjoy college without violence, without fear, without racism and anti-Semitism. And when this is what's happening, when we see people being arrested because they're being violent towards others, this is a bad note for President Biden and what he's doing with his administration.
And all this is happening while reportedly Trump and Republicans are trying to tie Biden to this chaos on campus here. Biden has dismissed the idea of calling up the National Guard to quell the unrest. Is Biden merely observing, or is he controlling the situation on campuses?
Like many other things, Biden seems to be observing and not controlling what's happening on campuses. He could months ago have convened a national summit with college leaders and told them that they needed to crack down on anti-Semitism. He did not do so. He could have said months ago that the government would take action to cut funding for schools that didn't deal with anti-Semitism. He still has not done so. The National Guard has been called on by many people to stop the lawlessness when we're seeing inaction day after day. He has not called out the National Guard. So he is more responsive to social pressure and commentary on what's happening, but he has not taken a decisive role in dealing with this crisis.
And keep in mind here, Gerard, this is the first time that Biden has spoken out publicly about this since April 22nd, and that was right before police moved in and started to break up those encampments on campuses like Columbia here. Can you go back and elaborate a little bit more on the word choice that Biden used in condemning this violence?
The problem with Biden's word choice, first of all, what he said was right on. Anti-Semitism has no place in school or in society. The problem is that all lives matters. He includes all other groups when dealing with a specific hate that we're seeing on college campuses. And that's what's unacceptable. We're not dealing with anti-Arab hate. It's not Arab students that are being discriminated against, prevented from going to school, being yelled at, being called genocide supporters. It's Jewish students. What we're seeing is anti-Semitism and nothing else. And the problem is when President Biden conflates issues, when he makes this about what it's not, he loses credibility. He makes it seem that he is out of touch with what's actually happening, and that hurts not just him, but the students who are actually experiencing the Jew hate on campus.
Gerard Felitti, civil and human rights attorney, the senior counsel at the Lawfare Project, thank you for weighing in this morning.
Thank you.
The Treasury Department has announced new sanctions targeting suppliers of military equipment to Russia.
And China is once again in the spotlight. NTD's Sam Wong brings us the details.
On Wednesday, the Biden administration rolled out fresh sanctions targeting companies and individuals that are allegedly helping Russia's war against Ukraine. Of nearly 300 targeted suppliers, more than a dozen are based in China. These entities are accused of backing the Kremlin with military equipment, ranging from infrared detectors to drone components to pressure sensors used in missiles. The latest actions came after Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's visit to China last month. Speaking to CCP officials, she warned that Chinese company could face penalties. That's if they help support Russia's offensive. Yellen cited an executive order signed by President Biden last year, which allows the Treasury to crack down on foreign financial firms for facilitating the flow of military goods to Russia.
That's an important power, and it's one that we would be prepared to use if necessary.
The sanctions were a coordinated effort between the Treasury and State Departments. U.S. officials have long voiced concern over Beijing potentially sending weapons to Moscow amid its war in Ukraine. During a separate trip to China, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Russia would struggle on the battlefield without any help from China. He added that Washington will address this issue if Beijing doesn't. Alongside China, the sanctions also target entities based in countries such as Belgium, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, the State Department announced that China has refused to resume talks with the U.S. on nuclear arms control. According to the Pentagon, China has a total of more than 500 nuclear warheads in its stockpile, and that number is expected to break 1,000 by 2030. Sam Wang, NTD News.
Up next, the IRS is clamping down on tax cheating with increased audits of the very wealthy.
And a glitch in Apple's iPhone alarm could make you late for work. The host of Business Matters has those stories. And Congress is hoping to address the nation's shortage of air traffic controllers and increase safety, a new bill that would force the airline industry to make these changes coming up.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Do you believe in Jesus?
Peter Lowe, the one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
We'll walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here.
I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Salvation is a gift.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
Are you ready to help your family get prepared for the unexpected?
Everyone in? Here we go!
Ladybug and Cat Noir know how important it is to be ready. Because you never know when Hawkmoth is going to strike, or a disaster will hit. And you don't need miraculous powers. Just put those planning skills you already have to good use. Know who to call, decide on a safe meeting location, and create an emergency preparedness kit. Make a plan that will help you and your family be ready when emergencies happen. Ready Kids can help.
I'm coming to save you!
Get started at ready.gov/kids.
Thanks for staying with us. Joining us now is NTD's Business Matters host, John Ma, to give us the latest updates from the financial world.
Don, let's talk about taxes.
Yeah, so the IRS, right? Not good news here. So what it's doing is planning to clamp down on tax cheating among the very wealthy. So that's what it says. The agency is saying that it's going to increase audits here on people who earn more than $10 million from 11% previously to 16.5% by 2026. So as for businesses, the IRS is also going to increase audits on that, and audit rates are going to go up for those with assets over $250 million. It's going to also audit 10 times as many business partnerships with assets over $10 million. So this move comes as audit rates have fallen over the years due to staffing issues at the IRS, and the agency has recently added 11,000 new positions over the past 2 years and plans to add 14,000 more by 2029. So these newest positions will be funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. And as for everyday taxpayers, well, seems like there may be no need to worry because IRS Commissioner Danny Werfel says that audit rates on households earning less than $400,000 will not increase from their record lows in 2018.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a relief there. And it sounds like things are changing, right, from the underfunded IRS to now really trying to keep some individuals on their toes here. Let's talk about trials. There are some big trials going on. What about the Google trial? Can you give us a little recap there?
Yeah, very big indeed here. In fact, it's a landmark antitrust trial against Google that is about to come to an end. So today and yesterday as well, the DOJ is presenting final arguments in a multi-year antitrust lawsuit against Google. So the Department of Justice aims to convince a federal judge that Google illegally monopolized the online search market. So with that in mind, let me just give you guys some quick recaps of what are the arguments that were presented yesterday. So of course, Google has long claimed that the reason it is so successful is because it has engineered the best technology, negating any need to engage in sinister tactics. But lawyers for the DOJ contend that Google's spending on default search contracts now exceed actually its annual investments in actually improving the search engine and the quality of its results. So at one point, the judge pointed to an example mentioning during the trial, he said 80% of desktop users who use Microsoft Edge also use that company's search engine, which is Bing. So he made the point that why wasn't that evidence of the power of being the default search engine? Because Bing versus Google right here, given that only 20% actually switched over to Google in the Edge browser when the Bing was actually the default. So the court is expected to reach a decision in the case later this year.
A lot of interesting arguments there. And if we look back, Google CEO was saying that they gave customers a better experience by making Chrome, which uses Google as its search engine here. Let's talk about the Baltimore Bridge collapse. When is that bridge going to be rebuilt and how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, so we got some new updates late yesterday. So Maryland said that it is going to cost $1.7 to $1.9 billion to rebuild the collapsed Baltimore Bridge, and officials anticipate a completion by fall of 2028. So gotta wait a few more years for that. The Maryland Department of Transportation says the estimated price tag is in line with similar projects of the same scale and complexity. And the Department of Transportation provided an initial $60 million in emergency funding earlier this week on Tuesday to clear debris and start rebuilding the bridge. Maryland said it's going to request proposals to rebuild the bridge by the end of May and plans on industrial forum on Tuesday.
Wow, so 1.7 to 1.9. And it sounds like some people are actually expecting to be a new cable stay design, which is apparently the cheaper version and supposed to save them some time. Let's talk about Apple. They made a big move.
Indeed, they did, Apple. But let me talk about first some growing pains it's facing, and it's making a historic move to make it through that. So what's happening is the company announced a $110 billion share buyback, and this is the largest in its history, in fact. Also yesterday, Apple posted a first quarter revenue of nearly $91 billion. This is down actually 4% year over year. And the iPhone maker is struggling with growth challenges, particularly in China amid an uncertain economic environment. Apple says iPhone sales have sunk by 10%.
Well, yeah, and strategists are saying that Apple is proving to be a value stock, bringing that return to the shareholders instead of a high-powered growth stock here. Now, let's stay on the topic of Apple. What's going on with Apple's alarm on this iPhone?
Well, so as you all know, most of us do enjoy being able to sleep in a bit, but you probably wouldn't like it if the extra shut-eye, if it was a result of not hearing your alarm clock, right? Yeah, so some iPhone users have turned to social media with that very complaint that I mentioned just now. And they've said that they overslept because they're not hearing the alarm, apparently. So Apple told NBC News that the company is working to fix the issue. However, it is unknown how many iPhone users are affected right now. In the meantime, some users say that turning off the attention aware feature has helped solve the problem, and the feature allows the iPhone to check whether someone is looking at their device or not. I mean, if your eyes are closed, what are they detecting here? But if they are, the iPhone will lower the sound of alerts. Apple says on its website that the do not disturb setting and putting the phone on silent does not affect the alarm sounds.
Okay, well, there goes my excuse to be late for work, I guess.
I have one solution. I always put a second alarm up, so just to back up.
Yeah, I mean, I woke up today, my alarm went off, so I guess I'm lucky in that sense.
You are here. Don Ma, host of Business Matters, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Congress is hoping to address the nation's shortage of air traffic controllers and reduce runway safety risks. A new bill would also force the airline industry to make big changes that could positively impact passengers. Here's the story.
Congress is pushing to make airplane travel safer. Lawmakers are hoping to pass a Federal Aviation Administration reauthorization deal by May 10th. That's when the current temporary law expires.
Both parties have every reason in the world to get FAA done as quickly as possible.
The bill would authorize more than $105 billion to the FAA and $738 million to the National Transportation Safety Board to address the nation's shortage of air traffic controllers and implement technology to reduce the risk of runway collisions, among other measures.
To keep our skies safe, our airports safe, our federal employees taken care of.
In the last year, there have been a handful of incidents where planes nearly collided on runways at major airports across the country. Last month at Reagan International Airport, a JetBlue plane and a Southwest Airlines plane stopped about 400 feet apart. Part of the issue stems from a massive shortage of air traffic controllers. Last year, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg said the FAA was about 3,000 air traffic controllers short of their target goals. At a recent press conference, the head of the FAA said they hired 1,500 new people last year, but acknowledged more needs to be done.
So we have been doing everything within our power to increase controller hiring.
The bill would also force the airline industry to make flying more comfortable and dependable for passengers, such as mandating reviews of airline seat sizes, set a standard for travel credits, and codify airline refunds.
Up next, an author shares his life experiences, the ups and downs, and the methods he used on the road to success.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
These are all farmers, maybe
no,
not this
not
one.
A farm anymore.
But here's a farm, right?
No, there's also not a farm anymore.
All these people shut down because of the government policies?
Yeah.
The government wants to control the food, so we don't eat meat, but we eat insect.
As the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, I can't afford a steak anymore, so all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After 15 years of smoking, Eva Marie quit. There's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Hi again. Is there a secret formula for success when preparing for your future?
I spoke to Ed Hagem, the author of The Island of the Four Ps. He describes his success through his plans, partners, principles, and passion. Take a look. Good morning, Ed Hagem. It's so good to have you on to talk about this book. Let's talk about the book called The Island of the Four Ps. So first, I'm interested for you to tell me, why did you decide to write this book? And was there a goal that you were hoped to accomplish there?
Let me start back one book. I wrote two books, one called On the Road Less Traveled, On the Road Less. That was my autobiography. And that basically sends a message that anything is possible. I have truly lived the American dream. And it also said basically that education is the solution to almost or everything. And then finally, the final message in my autobiography was never be a victim. And you see throughout my book, I wasn't a victim. I always use the energy of being a victim to find out what's next, which I think are the two magic words. At the end of that book, I wrote just a quick summary of the four Ps. And then I decided to take that four Ps and write a fable. And those four Ps, find your passions, find your principles, find your partners, and find your plans, cover most of everything you talk to yourself about and to other people as well. So every freshman in every college ought to read this book and basically answer those questions. And we've started that. I have one course which there's 70 students now enrolled that are going through this process of basically asking themselves these questions. I think a student should graduate both with a degree, a diploma, and a life plan, a life design. And the life design is written in pencil, obviously, because you want to erase it and change it. But using those four words, in my mind, will help you a great deal. And that's been my pitch, and it's my mini crusade right now.
I want to also talk about, I think from what I read, your hardships in your life obviously have played a large role and you have become. So what were the most important qualities that you discovered through these experiences that you made to help you build a better life?
So I became very adaptable. In fact, if you get in and out of, half a dozen Catholic schoolyards, you basically get pretty adaptable. You also have you develop resilience, and you develop basically also perseverance. And those qualities basically give you, capabilities that others don't have. And in many respects, you're lucky. Some people who don't have, those kinds of experiences early on. So what happens is your disadvantages, to some extent, become advantages.
Let's take it back to the book for a moment here. If there's one message that people could take away from that book, what do you hope it would be?
Well, it's marrying your principles and your passions to a wave. When you write a plan, you should think about what's going to happen in your lifetime. Where are the great demands? Where's the unsatisfied needs? Where are the waves in the cycle? So if you can marry your principles and your passions to a wave or a cycle, you'll find out when you read biographies of people, most people who are successful have the wind at their back for a period of time. And that's one of my messages. So when a young fellow says to me, Ed, you've given me too many ideas, give me one idea. And I say, sit down, write down where you want to go and how you think you might get there and why, of course. And then look at your lifetime and see what wave or cycle or theme you'd like to catch on to. Now, you can take it the opposite direction and say, I know the wind is going to in my face. That's okay, because this is something I want to do. But recognizing that, it allows you then to take on bad times and say, I'm going to live through this because I know this is something I really want to do, even though the wind is in the opposite direction.
Well, got it. I think that's very inspiring, and also that you put all this wisdom that you have gathered in throughout your life and into a book so that you can share it with the rest of the world. So thank you so much, Ed Hagem. I really appreciate your time this morning.
You've been terrific. Thank you very much. Good questions.
Sounds like a good read. And for those interested in the actual meat of the story, it was Marketus, the protagonist, that went to these villages with the 4 Ps, and then he put a green pea into a device there, and that allowed him to store his thoughts into it, retrieve them, and then integrate them. If only that was so easy, right?
Yeah, I know, but I think it's very inspiring. And he was saying, he actually mentioned this quote that I thought was very interesting, because he says, there's 2 kinds of education. In universities, they help you to make a living, but not how to make a life. And those 4 Ps, those 4 words, they help you consider that as well from that angle. So I thought that was very interesting, yeah.
That's really cool, yeah, and partnerships, you always got to have those.
Exactly.
So we're going to go to break here. Opening night at the 24th Annual Beverly Hills Film Festival, showcasing over 250 films from around the world. We take a look at some of the entries and some people in attendance when we come back.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging. Gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Shenyun.com.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shenyun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel, actually, an effect. And I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times. And so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then a second time, I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just 2 teaspoons of it, and over a few times. And wow, there was a big difference, because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours, and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
Meet the Scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you!
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back. The 24th Annual Beverly Hills International Film Festival is underway in California. It's at the iconic TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood.
The festival is showcasing over 250 of the most prestigious films from all over the world. NTD's Ruby Lavelle has the story.
I'm at the iconic TCL Chinese Theater here in the heart of Hollywood, and it's opening night for the 24th Annual Beverly Hills International Film Festival, a very prestigious festival that showcases over 250 films from all over the world. So I'm here with Chuck Zito. He is here for Best Documentary, Chuck Zito, An American Story. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Tell us about what you sprinkled into this movie of your life.
I've done more in my lifetime, and it would take somebody else 5 lifetimes to do. So I've done it all. I mean, back in the 70s, 80s, I was known as the bodyguard to the stars. I've been boxing. I'm a martial artist.
And are you still friends with all those high-profile elite that you used to look after?
Absolutely.
Amazing. And are they involved in the production of this?
Yes, everybody's. There's like 30 celebrities in my documentary talking about me.
How were you kind of involved with this movie?
Well, I mean, Chuck did my documentary, Stallone Frank, that is. And I, of course, when he asked me to do his, of course, I've known him 42 years, you know. And Chuck has a lot of friends. He's a self-made guy. I mean, so I'm really excited about seeing it, tell you the truth. I know everyone in it, and I've known Chuck for 42 years. So I'm really proud of him. They finally got this movie made.
Now, he was a bodyguard for your brother.
Sylvester Jones. No, I know. He wasn't like a hired bodyguard. He's just a good friend. And when we were together, he was there.
Here with iconic actor Emile Hirsch. We all know him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Into the Wild. You won many nominations for that. You've been gracing our screens for a long time.
I have. I'm a dinosaur now. We found the film to be an inspirational story. I play Joseph Bao, who he is a cartoonist and an artist in the Holocaust, and he goes to a concentration camp, and he goes and he makes a lot of IDs, forges them to help like people get out of the concentration camp.
Gary, you are one of the festival judges and judging who walks away with the coveted prize. What is it that you are looking for as a judge in these films? Obviously, you're highly accomplished in your industry.
I mean, I've been doing this since I was in my 20s. I've been working with big movie studios. And, you know, it's like, so I've seen thousands and thousands of movies, and you get to know what movies are going to do well with the public, in theaters, in streaming, or whatever.
What is this story about, and who wrote this, and how was it being in it?
So it was such a blast being in it. This is Heidi Weitzer's film, who wrote and directed. I play Zan, the divorcee. So it was pretty amazing to, you know, she starts as this hot mess that wants to bring all her money and blow it all, throw it in the fire, and then the girlfriends are like, let's not do that, but let's find a way, if you're, you know, been sent on spending it all this weekend, let's do it together. So
this has been Ruby Lovell, NTD.
Wow, always something happening in Hollywood, always.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the screenings. I have 3 panels that are going on there. AI in filmmaking, modern day filmmaking, and then the next frontier in filmmaking. So how cool is that?
That is pretty cool. And also, I think it really sounds like they had some really nice and interesting films presented there.
Yeah, and The Lost Princess was something that they had scheduled to present last night, and that is something that is just right out of Morocco. You know, we got Marrakesh as the setting.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Beautiful city. All right. We are heading to a quick break now, but we'll be right back with more, so stay with us.
NTD News, the fastest growing independent news source in America, bringing you breaking news from around the world. Expert analysis, investigative reporting, and original, award-winning documentaries. We're known for our uncensored China coverage you won't find anywhere else. We cover the stories that affect you and shape our world without the political noise. We report from the heart with you in mind. Watch us right here on NTD News.
Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. Former President Trump back in court for his so-called hush money trial. His attorneys turn up the heat on Stormy Daniels' ex-lawyer.
Police have arrested over 2,000 protesters on college campuses over the last 2 weeks. The unrest shows no sign of slowing down.
And an exclusive interview with a college student on her search for religious freedom and her fight to free her father from the Chinese communist regime.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Welcome. Today is Friday, May 3rd, and topping today's news, police are continuing to crack down on pro-Gaza protests on campuses across the U.S.
The unrest shows no signs of slowing down. Police in Los Angeles arrested over 200 people last night for refusing to leave UCLA.
Authorities in Oregon arrested at least 30 people at Portland State University yesterday, clearing a library and park. Portland police said some people broke back into the building after officers left.
For many universities, it's graduation weekend. Some schools holding ceremonies today are raising security concerns after weeks of protests and mass arrests.
The University of Florida ramped up security at its graduation tonight. Some pro-Gaza students and faculty are calling for Indiana University's president to resign after riot police broke up protests last weekend. The school ceremonies are today and tomorrow.
Ohio State's ceremony is still on for Sunday. That's after both disorderly and peaceful protests on campus this week. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the campus chaos.
There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos.
President Biden on Thursday gave his first lengthy comments on campus chaos spreading across the U.S.
We respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law.
Police say they've arrested at least 2,000 people at pro-Gaza protests and encampments on U.S. campuses over the last 2 weeks. The president says it's not a time for politics, but a moment for clarity.
Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not peaceful protest. It's against the law.
Former President Trump on Truth Social said a radical left revolution is taking place. He praised New York and California law enforcement outside court Thursday.
They did a job at Columbia and likewise in Los Angeles.
Trump says the Justice Department should be looking at what's happening in their own offices, warning it's going to get worse. A spokesperson for the Manhattan DA's office said 46 people arrested at Columbia's Hamilton Hall have only been charged with 1 count of trespassing so far. Protesters that barricaded inside could be charged with third-degree burglary. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says outside agitators were training and co-opting protests, calling some professionals and well-trained.
There is a movement to radicalize young people, and I'm not going to wait until it's done and all of a sudden acknowledge the existence of it. This is a global problem. That young people are being influenced by those who are professionals at radicalizing our children. And I'm not going to allow that to happen as the mayor of the city of New York.
Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
As more anti-Israel protests sweep across college campuses in America, one legal scholar intends to take legal action against protesters, professors, and colleges.
Famed attorney Alan Dershowitz talked to NTD's host of America's Hope with Kelly Wright about his plan to address the protests.
Alan, as you see these protests continuing to take place throughout America, pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, death to Israel, death to America, what is going through your mind as you watch all of this unfold?
Well, let's remember that the biggest supporters of these riots is Iran. The head of Iran wrote a letter commending these thugs, these Hitler youth who are calling for the end of the Jews. And of course, Iran would commend them. Hamas has commended them. And when you have Iran and Hamas on your side, you know you must be doing something very, very wrong. These are radical, anarchistic, anti-American young people who have no knowledge of what's going on. I'll give you an example. Some of the students are calling for a ceasefire. Do any of them know that Israel offered a ceasefire and that the Secretary of State said the only thing that stands between the civilians in Hamas and a ceasefire, the civilians in Gaza and a ceasefire, is Hamas? It's all Hamas's fault. The deaths are Hamas's fault. They use human shields. The hunger is Hamas's fault. They won't allow food to come in without them stealing it. But these kids are utter ignoramuses, and the faculty are the worst because they're the ones who have been propagandizing these kids for years and years and years. what really concerns me, because I have experience in this, I represented a lot of the protesters in the 60s and 70s. These protesters, some of them, will become terrorists. They are being groomed by Hamas. Hamas will ask them to plant bombs. They will do it. And it's coming to a theater near you.
What are you doing from your legal perspective to take action against those who have rallied to these protests, even threatening and actually physically harming some of the Jewish students attending these colleges?
We're starting a new group called Heard a Jew, We Sue You, and we will sue individuals, not the universities, others are doing that, but we will sue 19-year-old and 20-year-olds who are blocking access to classes. And we will sue them and get their scholarships, and we will sue them and get their cars, we will sue them and get their boom boxes. We will sue them for every penny they have, because you cannot get away with hurting a Jew today in America. And too many prosecutors are allowing them to get away. We don't control prosecutors, but we do control lawsuits. If we file a lawsuit, it has to go forward. And we will do that. We'll get discovery. We'll find out who's financing these protests. We'll find out the role of George Soros, the role of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the role of Peter Beinart, who's on the Rockefeller Fund and doesn't believe Israel has the right to exist as the nation state of the Jewish people. So we're going to get to the bottom of this through lawsuits.
You can see more of Kelly Wright's interview with Alan Dershowitz when America's Hope airs tonight at 10 p.m. here on NTD.
And former President Trump was back in court yesterday after a quick campaign outing earlier this week.
An ex-lawyer for Stormy Daniels said the payment Trump made was not hush money. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the latest on Trump's New York trial.
Former President Trump's lawyers Thursday laid into witness Keith Davidson. Davidson testified as then lawyer for Stormy Daniels. He arranged the $130,000 payment with ex-Trump lawyer Michael Cohen. The defense questioned Davidson's credibility, pointing to other deals he had cut with celebrities over the years, including Hulk Hogan, Charlie Sheen, and Lindsay Lohan. Trump's attorney played secretly taped recordings of conversations between Davidson and Cohen. The two lawyers could be heard talking about the leverage of Daniels' claims. Trump's attorney said Davidson was well versed in extracting payments from celebrities to keep stories out of the press. He argued this fell just short of extortion, and that the deal with Trump followed a similar pattern. Davidson denied ever committing extortion. Prosecutors questioned Davidson about Stormy Daniels' earlier denial of her relationship with Trump. Davidson argued the denial was not technically a lie because it referred to a romantic relationship as opposed to a one-off encounter. He also refused to label the payment Trump made to Daniels as hush money. He confirmed Daniels signed a non-disclosure agreement with Trump, but said the money was, quote, consideration in a civil agreement. Justice Juan Merchan earlier in the day signaled he might fine Trump over allegations he again violated his gag order. Trump's lawyers argued Trump did not violate the order when he said the Manhattan jury was picked from a heavily Democratic area, but Merchan disagreed. Prosecutors are asking for Trump to be fined $4,000. So far, Trump has been adamant he will take the stand in his own trial, but on Thursday he had this to say.
I'm not allowed to testify because this judge, who's totally conflicted, has me under an unconstitutional gag order. Nobody's ever had that before.
Trump faces 3 other criminal prosecutions, though it's not clear if any of them will go to trial before the presidential election. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
We love Trump!
Let's get a wrap-up of former President Trump's criminal trial in New York with Will Scharf, a former federal prosecutor and attorney for Trump. Thanks for being here to unpack this for us, Will. What was the most significant development this week in Trump's business records trial, or were there no significant events from the testimony suggesting an uphill battle for the prosecution?
Yeah, I think as testimony comes in, as we see these witnesses testify, what's coming out more and more is that there really isn't a case here. President Trump didn't do anything wrong. Very little, if any, of this testimony actually relates to anything that President Trump did. I think the testimony we heard yesterday, if it points to any crime, it points to extortion being committed against President Trump, not anything inculpatory with respect to President Trump's actions. I think that's a narrative we're going to continue seeing play out in court. But at the end of the day, I think the facts are absolutely on President Trump's side. And I think that's the key takeaway from this week's testimony.
Okay, Will, so we'll delve into more of that. Just as a side note, after leaving the court, Trump had a planned visit last night to the FDNY, giving them pizza and praising those first responders here. What does all this testimony by Davidson, the attorney for McDougal and Daniels, have to do with the claim that Trump falsified business records?
It has essentially nothing to do with that claim. The prosecution here is engaging in this sort of smoke and mirrors strategy. They think if they throw up enough smoke, enough sort of seamy details about events that happened over a decade ago in some cases, that the jury will feel that there must be some fire behind all that smoke. I don't think that's working. And again, as you said, none of this really relates to the underlying business records allegations here. What's at stake is recordings in President Trump's personal ledger. That's what President Trump has been indicted for here. Statements in his personal ledger that reflected payments to his lawyer as legal retainer payments. There's nothing that's been introduced in court that casts into doubt the veracity of those actual business records entries. And without that sort of evidence, there is no ground to convict President Trump. And so I would say this trial is going quite well for us so far.
Well, what does former President Trump mean when he says that he's not allowed to testify because the judge has him under a gag order?
Well, look, the question of whether President Trump testifies or not will be a question for the trial team and for President Trump after we finish seeing all of the prosecution's evidence. I think what President Trump was referring to is the fact that some of the witnesses in this case, or potential witnesses in this case, have been laying into him publicly, have been making very aggressive personal statements about him, have been attacking him relentlessly. And because of Judge Merchan's unconstitutional gag order, President Trump isn't able to respond to that as any normal person would be able to. It just goes to show how wildly overbroad and unconstitutional this gag order is. We're obviously challenging that gag order now in the New York appellate courts, and we hope to get some relief there because the situation we have now is just patently absurd, where people can attack President Trump and he lacks the ability to respond in kind.
I understand what you're saying here, Will. Just briefly here before we go, why would the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, Keith Davidson, say that the $130,000 payment to Daniels was not hush money?
I have no idea. I mean, Keith Davidson has came out on cross-examination yesterday. He operates basically close to the line of extortion. I don't know why he decided not to characterize those payments as hush money. He characterized them, I believe, as a civil settlement. Under the prosecution's theory, those amount to one and the same. Based on the trial transcript that I've read, his testimony seemed highly defensive. And again, if anybody's done anything wrong here, based on the trial testimony yesterday, it seems that it's Davidson, not Trump.
Will Scharf, former federal prosecutor and attorney for Trump, thank you.
Appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
Coming up, an exclusive interview with a college student on her search for religious freedom and her fight to free her father from the Chinese Communist regime.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
All right, I'm at the house, and I'm gonna head inside. Okay, come on, this door. I'm in the house.
What do you see?
Let me check the den. There's nothing in the den. Let me check the kitchen. There's no one downstairs, it looks like.
Wait, what was that?
I don't know. Let me head upstairs.
What do you see?
What the? Did you shut this bathroom door?
No.
Oh,
What?
It's not here.
What do you mean?
The gun's not here.
What? Where is it?
Oh my God.
What's going on?
Cam.
Oh my God, what's going
Cameron, are you in there? Open the door. Cam, please, please, open the door, Cameron. Come on, Cam.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, imagine waking up every day and not knowing if your loved ones are safe. That there's always a possibility to see a message on your phone that they were taken from their home again and are being tortured for their belief. And that's exactly how one college student who is now in the U.S. has spent all her life.
A remarkable and nightmarish story that is relatable for too many people inside communist-ruled China today. Guangzi Han shared her story with NTD. She and her dad believe in Falun Gong, a faith that is demonized and persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party. And now her dad was taken by Chinese police once again.
That's right, and she's a student at Feitian College here in New York State. She joined me in the studio to tell us about her personal experience after 1999. That's when the CCP started the brutal persecution of this faith group. Take a look. Welcome. Maybe let's start with a little bit of background. When was the last time you were actually able to see your dad?
Thank you for inviting me. Last time I saw my dad was actually when I left China in 2013. So it's roughly like 11 years already. I haven't seen him.
Wow.
Yeah. Our whole family practices the spiritual practice Falun Gong, right? So it's like really tough in the in mainland China to do that. So when I was 13, my mom decided to come with me to the US to have like a more freedom to our religion and as well as education, I guess. In I think it was 2015, after me and my mom got the political asylum status, and then we applied for my dad to reunite with us. So he is actually legally able to come. I forgot the exact time, but it's basically as soon as he got the travel document to come, they secretly revoked his passport. I guess he's on like this blacklist of Falun Gong, I guess.
He just recently got arrested, right?
Yep.
Tell me more about, how did you find out, first of all, and what do you know? What happened?
On April the 4th, I think, I got a text really early in the morning, like 6 a.m. or something that's like 4 a.m. here in New York.
Right.
And then my mom was like, oh, your dad is captured again.
So this was not new for you. You knew what, yeah.
It's actually his 5th time this time, like arrested. So he was actually detained back then, like in 2016. But I think the Chinese government got some international pressure, so they transferred him from like imprisoning to house arrest.
Oh.
And then he was able to escape.
Okay. I think that's great to know that, you know, pressure from outside of China, international pressure actually works. What went through your mind when you got that text message? What were you thinking?
The first thing I thought was, is he being tortured right now? Because I didn't know about this. When I was like 1 year old, he was arrested for like the second time, and then he was badly tortured.
When you were 1 year old?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about this, and my parents did not tell me.
To protect you?
Yeah, I guess they don't want to scare me, I guess. So I didn't know until my mom was like preparing materials for our asylum status.
Wow.
I found out how he was tortured. Like basically they handcuffed him and hung him up for like, I don't know, 2 days or something. So his wrists are like wounded basically and like bleeding, and then they put ropes on the wound.
Wow.
And my mom says until today my dad still has the scar. My mom said that he was like, the police use a plastic bag to put over his head and then suffocate him, and then they watch him suffocate until he's basically like dying, and then they take the bag off, and then like they do this repeatedly.
Do you know where he is, where he's being held, what the situation is like, anything?
The time he was arrested in 2016, like when me and my mom's already in the US, he escaped from the police basically. We didn't know where he was for like a really, really long time, basically 7 years or something. And we only knew he escaped and hid into like a rural area somewhere in China, because he didn't use a phone or computer for a long time, like several years, so we didn't hear where he was. And then it wasn't only until like recent 1 or 2 years he started to contact us like through a app, I think, like supposedly secure app, and we just text each other like once or twice a month.
Wow.
Like that. And then now I know he's detained in like a police station in China. So ironically, I know where he is right now, but not for the past 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know how they found him?
He was sending out some texts talking about Falun Gong, basically. And then he used his older brother's phone to pay for the phone cards. They used, I don't know, some kind of tracking. First found out my uncle, but he does not practice Falun Gong actually. And then he found him, captured him, and then they, I guess, interrogated him, and then they used big data to find my dad.
Wow, the incredible resources they use on people that do not align with the ideology of the CCP. So what would you say is your greatest wish now?
So what I'm worrying is, now that I know he was tortured before, and I'm just very worried just one day he will be tortured to death or killed for his organs, because that's what the CCP does to Falun Gong practitioners a lot. I'm just worried if he passes away, I wouldn't be able to see him. My greatest wish is just for him to be safe. I wish he can be released, and or even better, he can escape from the persecution and come reunite with us. Yeah.
I really hope that this will come true soon, and I can't believe I don't think anybody should ever live with this kind of fear of, even starting with being 6 years old and feeling like you have to hide wherever you go. Tell me how people can help. What is your appeal to the audience?
I just hope people can pay more attention to this ongoing persecution towards peaceful and innocent people in China. Yeah, I hope people can help with this. Tell the CCP to stop. Yeah, because millions of people are suffering from this.
Well, thank you so much. That is Guangzi Han, and she just shared with us her absolutely heartbreaking story, and I really hope that your dad will be released very soon. Thank you so much for sharing this story.
Thank you.
Tough topic, but we actually have good news. This was recorded a while back, and after we spoke to her, her father was released just 2 days ago and is now safely back home in China.
Wow, that is really such a relief. What a harrowing account. And imagine what she and her family are going through, considering that other Falun Gong practitioners who have been detained by the CCP, after they get out, they report that the CCP agents would tell them, yeah, we put drugs in your food so you can respond to us. And then they tell them, oh yeah, you have now renounced your faith in Falun Gong, trying to instill that image in their mind. Like when they're so tired, they can't even look up.
Yeah, absolutely. Those torture methods are really, they affect your mind, your body, everything. And I mean, I guess safe is subjective, right? They're still under communist regime rule, and this is the 5th time he was arrested, so who knows what will happen. But it definitely sounds like she was doing a lot of work outside of China as well.
And it's so important for many people to know about this, and hopefully he never has to go through that again. And you made a really great point. That China is putting resources to persecuting people. They have that developing nation status because they're so poor. Maybe if they actually spent that money on their people, they wouldn't have to.
And that, of course, is just one aspect of her life. She also went through a lot of, brainwashing in school, starting from 1st grade, and being marginalized through what they're teaching the kids in school. So that's soon available online, the full version of this interview. But for now, we are ending the show at this point. But be sure to stay tuned for NTD's News Today broadcast at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That's coming up.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
That's right. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms.
Thank you.
Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast?
No thanks, we're good.
They're always in their own world.